Hi everyone, welcome again to another crochet infusion. Thank you all so much for being here today. So today I'm going to show you all how I do my Christmas tree. I'm going to be using DK yarns, and I've got a selection of hooks, scissors, tapestry needle, stitch marker and a row stitch counter as well. Now you don't have to use one of those, that's just me. If you do need to keep track of your rounds that you're doing, you can just just jot that down on a piece of paper. Scissors you're definitely going to need as well. You're going to need some stuffing as well. So this selection of hooks that I'm going to be using today, each hook is for different accessories for the tree. So I'm going to start with using a 4mm crochet hook. That's the first one I'm going to be using. We've got a 4.5, a 325 and a 275mm hook as well. So I'm just going to leave those there ready for later on. So we're going to start by using this brown DK yarn or beige DK yarn. I'm going to start by making a magic ring. So to do your magic ring, you're just going to place your yarn over these two fingers, or however which way you do your magic ring. Wrap that round and then over to there, and then with your little finger onto that, just holding that in place. So it should look like this. So you've got this tail hanging. So I'm just going to take this 4mm crochet hook, I'm going to go underneath that first strand of yarn, and then I'm going to gently pick up that yarn that's slightly behind, pull that through, keeping hold of your hook and your yarn together. Just gently wiggle your fingers out, keep hold of your yarn. You've got this tail hanging, just leave that there. Then you're going to pick up the yarn that's attached to your skein, and you're going to wrap yarn around your hook and pull through that loop. So now we're going to do 8 single crochets into the ring. So I just gently pull that tail out of the loop because I don't really need it there. So I'm going to go straight underneath into the side of the loop, going underneath with that strand is over my hook as well. Pull your yarn through and go through 2 loops. That's 1, and then again for 2, insert, pull through for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and then 8. So now you should have 8 single crochets on that ring. So where this tail is just hanging around there, you're just going to pick that up and pull that, so then that closes the ring. And then you're going to attach this ring so it goes together. So we're going to join the ring. So just simply go into that very first stitch, and you're going to pull the yarn through and then through that loop that's on your hook. And then see this tail again hanging, you just want to pull, and then you might feel it kind of click into place. That's when you know it's securely closed. Okay, so moving on to the next round now. You've got 8 single crochets in that round. We're now going to do a increase round of 2 single crochets in each stitch. That will give us a total of 16 stitches at the end of this round. So going into that very first stitch right here and work 2 single crochets. So that's 1, insert, pull through 2, so that's 2, so that's 3, that's 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and then that very last one right there for another 2, and then 16. So now you should have a total of 16 stitches in that round. So for the next round we're going to go into that very first stitch and we're going to do a 1 single crochet. So simply insert your hook into that very first stitch, that's 1, into the next stitch for another 1 single crochet. That's 2. I'm just going to stop right there, and I'm going to pick up my stitch marker. So 1, 2, on that 3rd stitch there, which is my last stitch of stitch number 16, I'm going to place my stitch marker. I'm going to continue going all the way around in 1 single crochet, and then I'll be back and show you what you need to do on the next round. Okay, so now you should have your first round of 1 single crochet of 16 stitches going around. So now we're going to do another round of 1 single crochet in each stitch for 16 stitches. You're going to do that for 5 more rounds. So go into that very first stitch, not this one, but on that next stitch right here, do 1 single crochet in each stitch. I'm just going to stop there and put my stitch marker back in. This is where your row counter will come in handy, because you're now going to do 5 rounds of 1 single crochet. So at the end of the 5th round, I'm going to come back and show you what you need to do next. And remember, as you're going around, to use your stitch marker so you don't go, wrong on your stitches. Always keep a count on those stitches, making sure you've got 16 stitches for 5 rounds. So now you should then have 5 rounds of 16 single crochets going around. I've just got my last single crochet to put in, so I'll just take out my stitch marker and put my last single crochet into there. So as you're working around, you'll probably notice yours is starting to curl inwards. You can just pop that the other way around, and then that'll be fine for you to continue on working on this side now. And that little piece of yarn that you first started with from the magic ring, that can just happily sit inside. So now we're going to move on to the next part now, which is still working in single crochets, except for this time we're working in the back loop only stitch, and we're going to do that for 8 rounds of 16 stitches all the way around. So we're going to go into that first back loop. So when you turn your work slightly towards you, you will notice that you've got like where it's split into 2. So there's the back loop is this one, and the one that's nearest to you, facing you, that is your front loop. So we're going to use the back loop only stitch and do 1 single crochet in each stitch, and we're going to do that for 8 rounds. And you still want to use a stitch marker as you're working around, and possibly you might need to mark how many rows you're doing as well, so you can just take a note of that as well. So that's 2 for me, so I'm just going to stick my stitch marker right there for when I come back around. So you're going to do that for 8 rounds of back loop stitch single crochet for 16 stitches. At the end of that 8th round I will be back, and then I will show you what you need to do next, just remembering that you are only working into that back loop only for all 8 rounds. Okay, so once you have finished doing your 8 rounds of 16 stitches going around using back loop only, we're now going to start stuffing. So if you've got any stuffing, you need to do that now. If you don't have any kind of toy stuffing lying around, you can use scrap yarns, or maybe pull apart an old pillow you're not using no more, just so you can basically stuff your trunk. So now we're going to go to the next round now. So I've done my stuffing, you need to do yours. This is where you now pause the video, and now we're just going to work on doing a round of decreasing once you've done your stuffing. So to go on to your decreasing, what you're going to do is you're going to still use the back loop only. You're going to insert your hook into that next stitch. So there's my stitch here, and there's my first stitch here. Insert your hook, and then you're going to pull the yarn through. You're going to go into that next stitch again, insert your hook, and pull your yarn through. Here you're going to have 3 loops on your hook, and you're simply just going to go through all 3 of those loops. So you're just going to do a round of decreasing, and you're going to keep decreasing until it actually closes over. So you don't actually need to use your stitch marker for this, as long as you're decreasing. So insert your hook, pull through, into that next stitch, pull the yarn through, 3 loops on the hook, and pull through all 3 loops. So I'm just going to keep working like this now all the way around until my until this is actually closed. So I'll meet you back once I have closed this over, and I will show you from then what you need to do for the next round. So just continuing on, going round, just simply decrease. So I'll meet you back once I have finished my decreasing. Okay, so I've gone around doing my decreasing as much as I possibly can. Now I'm ready to fasten this off. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through these 2 loops here, and I'm just going to draw that through and through the hook to make a slip stitch, and then I'm just going to simply chain 1, get my scissors, cut my yarn, and then I'm just going to do a little chain 1 and then simply pull and close that to fasten that off. So now I'm just going to get my tapestry needle, and I'm just going to sew this end in ready, and then we can move on to the next round. So I'm just going to insert my tapestry needle. I'm just going to go straight through the top here and just come out near down by the side of the bottom down here, and you just want to pull that through. Okay, so that top bit's just sank in, but you can just simply lift that back out at the best you can. Just give it a bit of a wiggle, and then just simply cut that side bit of strand off there. So now we're ready to move on to the next round, and I'll show you what you need to do now. Now for this next round, we're now going to be working on doing the branches for the tree. So I'm going to be using my green yarn when I find the end, and then I'm going to use my 4mm crochet hook. So when you pick up the trunk of your tree, you're just going to turn that so the peak of the tree is actually facing you, and then the bottom of the base of the trunk is facing the opposite direction. So when you look at your stitches that you've done, because we did the back loop stitch only, it's left like this ridge effect, which is perfect what we need for to put the branches on. So when you look at this, you will notice that somewhere on that bottom there will be no more going around, and it kind of cuts off. There's no more there. So on that very last one here, this is where you're going to insert your hook right there, and you're going to put your green yarn over your hook, and you're just simply going to pull that through and then do a little chain 1, and then as you can see here, we've got another stitch above, so we're going to do another slip stitch right there on that row above. So we're going to do slip stitch, and then into that next stitch across we're going to do another slip stitch, and then into this one here, the next one, we're going to do a 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So now we're going to be doing double trebles. So to do a double treble, you want to put your yarn around your hook 3 times. So 1, 2 and 3. So now you've got your yarn around your hook 3 times. You're going to go back into that same stitch where you did your chain 5, insert your hook, pull your yarn through, and you've got all these loops on your hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on the hook, and you're going to pull through the first 2, and then you're going to yarn over again and pull through the next 2, yarn over again, pull through those 2, yarn over again and pull through the last 2, and we're going to do that one more time. So yarn over 3 times, 1, 2, 3, insert into that same space again, pull your yarn up, and then pull your yarn through 2. So that is your double trebles. So this is the start of the branches at the base of your tree. So now we're going to do a chain 1, and then we're going to go back into the same stitch again, and we're just going to do a little slip stitch into there, And now we're going to do 2 slip stitches in the next 2 stitches. So 1 slip stitch and then another slip stitch into that next stitch, and then onto this next one we're going to insert our hook, and we're going to do a 1 single crochet and chain 5, and we're going to do double trebles again, wrap round 3 times into that same stitch, pull your yarn through 2, through 2, through 2, and then through those last 2, and then one more time. Wrap your yarn around your hook 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do that again, and then pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2, chain 1, slip stitch into that same stitch, and then slip stitch into the next 2 stitches, so 1 and then 2, and then you're going to do your 1 single crochet and repeat that process again. So I'm going to meet you back once I've finished all the way around here, and then I'll show you what you need to do next. Okay, so once you have finished doing that first round of doing your double trebles, we're now just going to finish, I'm just going to finish this off now. So I've done a chain 1, and I'm just going to insert my hook again and finish that off with a slip stitch. And now I've only got 1 stitch left here, so I'm just going to go into that stitch there for a slip stitch, and then I'm just going to move across and go into the second stitch, not the first one that we attached on, go into that second one and just do another slip stitch into there, and then again onto that next one where we actually started this first one. I'm just going to move myself across to get over to here. So now I'm going to insert my hook into this chain space right here, so insert your hook into there and just simply make a little slip stitch and then just do a chain of 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So now we're going to start on doing some trebles now, so that's yarn over your hook twice, 1 and 2, insert your hook and do your treble, pull through 2, 2 and 2. So a treble is very similar to a double treble, except for it's just slightly smaller than the double treble. Yarn over twice and go through that same chain space again. So we're doing exactly the same thing where we're doing our chaining, and then 2, chain 1 and then do your slip stitch into that same space. So reason for this is just to make this bottom branch a little bit wider out. So now we're going to go into the next chain space, so you've got your double treble here post, you're going to go into that chain space and do another slip stitch, and then you will just find the last one just here at the side and do another slip stitch and then do another chain of 4, yarn over twice, and you're going to do the same again into here for 2 trebles, giving you 3 trebles in total, as your chain 4 acts as your first treble. Chain 1 and finish that off with a slip stitch again, and then here you've got your 2 slip stitches that you've already done. You can just go through those again to get you back onto this next one, and then once again just repeating the same process again. So you can do a slip stitch and then chain 4, yarn over twice, 1 treble, 2 treble, chain 1, slip stitch in that chain space, and then slip stitch, chain 4, and repeat the process all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. So I've just finished that round now, so I've just finished putting a slip stitch into that same stitch, just finished there. So now I'm just going to do 2 slip stitches and these last 2 stitches that we've already done a slip stitch into them, but this is just because we're finishing that round off. before we move up onto the next round, because we're not actually going to join these together. So we're going to move on to the next row, so just simply insert your hook up to the next row onto that next front loop stitch, and you're just going to simply draw your yarn through and make another slip stitch as we have been. Just do one more slip stitch in the next stitch, and then into this next stitch we're now going to do a chain one, a single crochet, and then we're going to chain 5. That's chain 1, ignore that. So it's single crochet and then chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to do the same as we did on the first round, which is by doing a double treble. So wrap yarn around your hook 3 times, and you're going to go back into that same stitch for 2 of these. So then you've got 3 double trebles, and that's with your chain of 5. I'm going to do exactly the same as what we have been doing all the way around, and then do your chain 1 and then your slip stitch and 2 slip stitches, and keep repeating that all the way around, and then I'll meet you back at the end of this round to show you what you need to do next. Okay, so now I've just finished doing that round. I'm just going to do that last stitch there for it with a slip stitch into here. Do that slip stitch, and then I'm going to make myself go back over towards this first branch again by doing slip stitching, like so. And then as you can see here, we've got this chain space again, so I'm going to go straight into that chain space for a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over your hook just once, insert your hook, pull through 2 and pull through 2, so that's your double crochet. So we're going to do the same things of the same principle, but this time we're going to be doing it with a double crochet. So that's 1 double crochet, yarn over once, insert, pull through 2, pull through 2, chain 1, and then do your slip stitch. So just keep working your double crochets in between as we have done on the previous round. Same concept, except for it's a double crochet. I'll meet you back at the end of this round, remembering to chain 3 and then do your double crochet. So I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so I've just finished that round. So now I've just finished out 2 slip stitches where the last 2 stitches were, and now we're moving up onto the next row. So insert your hook up onto the next row with a slip stitch, just like we have been throughout. Sorry about that squeaking. There's 1 slip stitch. Into the next stitch we're going to make another slip stitch, and then into that next stitch we're now going to do a single crochet, chain 3. 1, 2 and 3. Yarn over once, and we're going to be doing double crochets all the way around. Same concept, with a chain 1, a slip stitch into the same stitch, slip stitch, slip stitch, and then it's going to be chain 3, 2 double crochets, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. So that's a double crochet round we are now working on. So I will meet you back once I've finished this round. I just want to quickly mention one little thing. When you're working in a round, you might notice that you might have a few stitches on the row below. So you would finish this stitch as you would, and then you've got the 2 slip stitches. Yes, you do your 2 slip stitches here. You can put another slip stitch there if you wanted to, but for me I do 2 slip stitches there, and then come back up onto this row here, and then I'll do my last stitch here of chain 3 double crochets, and then do slip stitch, and then back onto here again. So I hope that makes sense in case you were a little bit confused there. So yes, otherwise your gap from there to there is just too far, so make sure that you do just finish the slip stitches there and then move up onto that row again. It's because we've worked in spirals, so sometimes it can look a bit odd and you're thinking, oh, am I going right here? Yes, you are. Don't panic. So I just thought I'd mention that to you as well. Okay, so I've finished that round now of doing the double crochets, and then I've done my slip stitching, and now I'm into that chain space again. So now I'm going to do a chain 3 because I've done a slip stitch in there as well. Chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, yarn over once and work 3 double crochets in the same places as we have been for the previous 2 rows. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, you got your chain 3, so you've got 3 double crochets because you chain 3, chain 1 and slip stitch, and it's exactly the same principle. If you're struggling a little bit when you get down to here, just know that you've got to do slip stitch in there and just kind of pull that apart. It's going to get a little bit difficult because it's a smaller stitch, so it's a bit more difficult to actually see, but don't worry, you will find it. So just make sure you just have a good look in there, just open it slightly and your hook will just go in, and then you can chain 3 again as you normally would, and then work your last 2 chains into that side. Like I say, it is a little bit fiddly trying to get in there now because it's getting tighter, but it is doable. You will be fine. So I'll meet you back at the end of this round and show you what you need to do for the next round. Okay, so once you've finished that round and you've gone round again and you're 2 lots of double crochets, you can just stop here now and just have a little look and see what you think of your tree so far and see if you've missed anything off, or sometimes it's easy when you're working around, you can easily forget to put another group of double crochets or whatever, trebles. So once you're happy with your tree, you can move on to the next round. So just simply, I've done 2 slip stitches here and now I'm ready to move up onto the next round. So I'm just going to insert my hook onto the next round, same as earlier, do a slip stitch, and then we're going to do another 2 slip stitches, well, 1 slip stitch, sorry, not 2, so two slip stitches in total, so 1, 2, and then into here. On this round we're just going to be doing a round of double crochets again, so just chain 1 there, chain 3, and we're just going to keep working around with a double crochet, same principle again of chain 3, 2 doubles, chain 1, slip stitch, and then slip stitch into the next 2. So keep working like that all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end of this double crochet round. Okay, so I've just finished that round of the double crochet, just done the last 2 slip stitches, just going to go into this chain space again, do a slip stitch. This time we're going to chain 2, yarn over once, insert your hook, pull your yarn through, 3 loops on your hook, and you're going to pull through all 3 of those loops. So that's a half double crochet. So we're going to be doing half double crochets this time into the sides of the branches, we have been for the other rows, so now we're doing it in half double crochets. So there's 1 half double crochet, yarn over again into that chain space, pull through 3, then chain 1, and then do a slip stitch, and then you're going to do your slip stitching in between your double crochets. And again, like I said earlier, it might start getting a little bit tight. It's just a case of trying to make sure you are going into the right spaces. Just simply pull them apart a little bit, and then chain 2 again, yarn over, and then into there, same space, and do 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then do your slip stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so I've finished that round of the half double crochet. So now you're going to work your way up to the next round like we have been, doing the exact same things as what we have been, but this time round it's going to be a double crochet. So for double crochet, just make sure you chain 3 before you do your double crochet. So just work into doing your slip stitches first, so going up to the next row above, because I've finished my slip stitching on that row below. Do slip stitch again, and then you're going to do your chain, your single crochet, and then you're going to do your chain 3, and then yarn over once and insert for your double crochet. That's 1 double and then 2 double, chain 1, and then slip stitch into the same stitch, and then 2 slip stitches, and keep repeating that all the way round, and I'll meet you back at the end of that round. Okay, so once you've finished that round of your double crochets, we're now going to insert our hook again into the chain space, and we're going to pull through, and we're only going to chain once this time, and we're going to do a single crochet. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 1, slip stitch, and then slip stitch into these ones as well, just like we have been. And remember, it's just going to be a chain 1 for a single crochet. So 2 single crochets into there, and then chain 1, and then slip stitch, and just repeat all the way around like we have been for throughout the rest of those rows. So I'll meet you back at the end of this round. So it's just single crochets this time round on the second round on top of your double crochets. Okay, so I've just finished that last round there from doing the single crochets on that on top of that stitch. So I've done a slip stitch here where I finished that round, done 2 slip stitches and gone into that third chain here to do a single crochet. So I'm ready to move on again now. So what we're going to do now is a chain 2. You're going to do a half double crochets for this round, 1 and 2, keeping to the same what we have been doing. So 1 half, 2 half, chain 1, slip stitch, and then it's going to be a slip stitch and a slip stitch, and then repeat that process again, chain 2. So this round is for your half double crochets, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so once you've finished doing that round of your half double crochet, you're now going to go around again and doing single crochets. So exactly the same as the other rows. Just do your slip stitching, get yourself across into here where your chain space is, slip stitch, chain 1, and do a single crochet. So insert your hook, pull through 2, 1, 2, chain 1, and then slip stitch. Slip stitch in between those 2 stitches, and then repeat the same there again, and then remembering to do slip stitches and continue on all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so I've just finished that round now. We're doing the single crochets, so now moving on to the next round now, and this round is going to be half double crochets. So I'm just going to get my hook in there for my slip stitch, and then slip stitch again into the next one, and then into this next stitch we're going to do 1 single crochet and then a chain of 2 for your half double crochet. So just make a single crochet, chain 2, yarn over once, insert your hook into that chain space, and then pull through all 3. And it's the same principle as always, where we just do another half double crochet, a chain 1, and then a slip stitch, and then 2 slip stitches, 1 slip stitch, and then a slip stitch in the next stitch, and then the same again. So I'll meet you at the end of this round for your half double crochets. Okay, so once you have finished doing that round of your half double crochet, we're not going to go around again on the tips of these now. We're going to go on to the next round. So moving on to the next round, we're now just going to be doing a round of single crochet. So insert your hook into the row above, again and do a slip stitch into the next stitch, and then we're going to do a single crochet into this next stitch, and then we're going to do a chain 1, and we're going to go into there for 2 more single crochets, and then do a little chain 1 and do your slip stitch in that same stitch. So it's the same thing again, except for this time we're going to be working in that round of doing single crochets. You can just stop there for a moment if you want and just have a look at straightening out your branches. I know it seems to be quite bunched up on here, but if you just keep twisting them round into the shape that you want them, they will eventually manipulate into place how you want them to be. But we're not finished yet anyway, so you can just have a look and see how yours is coming on. So just going in a round now of single crochet, and I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so once you've finished that round, we're now going to move on to the next round. So move on to the next round by doing your slip stitch and then do another slip stitch, and then you're going to do a chain of 3, and then you're going to do another slip stitch into that same stitch, and then you're going to do another 2 slip stitch, and then on that third stitch you're going to do a chain of 3 and then do another slip stitch into that same stitch. So I'll just do this with you. So I've just done one here already, so I've just done 1 slip stitch there. I'm going to go into this next one and do another slip stitch, and then into this one do slip stitch, chain 3, and then work another slip stitch. So you're just going to keep working like this all the way around for this next round. Okay, so once you've finished that round, we've still got a little bit more to go. This is the last part now, so this is where we're just going to do a decrease all the way around. So just go back into the stitch above, you should be able to find it there. Just pull your yarn through 1 loop, go into the next loop, go in as any way you possibly can get your hook in there, because I know it's quite tight. Pull your yarn through 3 loops on the hook and pull through all 3 loops. So that is a decrease. So then we're going to go again into the next stitch, and it's just basically we're just going to go around doing a decrease in the stitches where we can possibly get our hooks into, just so we can finish it off with giving it a nice little finish at the top of the tree. So just keep going through, pull your yarn through, go into another stitch, any direction, whichever way you feel comfortable. Just keep pulling through the loops, and then I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Okay, so hopefully you managed to get all your decreases going in around, and you managed to actually push down to be able to get to them stitches that have sunken in, and sometimes you have to kind of pick it back out a little bit. So that's the best way to do this round. So once you've got a nice round going on here and it's not looking kind of bare or bold anywhere, now you're ready to move on to the last round. So the last round is just going to be decreases, and we're just going to keep working around it until we can't go no more. So I'm just going to do that now with you. So just simply going into that next stitch. So because I've gone to here, I'm just going to go into this next stitch right here, pull the yarn through, go into the next stitch, and then pull through all 3. So just keep going around with your decrease in. This just helps to give it a little bit of a height and a little bit of a peak all at the same time. I'm just going to keep going around. Insert your hook, pull your yarn through into the next stitch, pull through 3, and then once we've closed this completely, then we are ready then to decorate our tree. Okay, so as you can see, I can't really do much more going around, but I'm just going to have a go, see if I can get another one in there. Okay, so I'm going to probably finished mine at there now, so I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to do a chain 1 and fasten off, and then I'll show you what you need to do for the next round, because the next part is going to be the accessories for the tree, such as the bucket and the tree topper and things like that. So I'll be back to show you what we need to do next. Okay, so for this next round we're now going to be using a 4.5mm crochet hook, and I'm going to be using red DK yarn. You're also going to need a stitch marker as well. So I'm going to start with the magic ring. So make your magic ring. It's going to go under there and then pick that other piece of yarn through. And then just do a chain 1. So now we're going to, I'm just going to take that tail out of that loop as well, so that's on the outside. So now I'm going to do 8 single crochets into this ring. So by inserting your hook into the ring and pull your yarn through and pull through 2, and we're going to do 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and your last one for 8. So now you're going to take this tail, the short tail, and you're just going to pull and close that ring. I'm going to go into the first stitch and join the round with a slip stitch. So now we're going to do a round of a decrease. Just pull that centre to make sure that is closed. So we're going to do a increase all the way around, which is 2 single crochets into each stitch around. That will give you 16 stitches at the end of this round. So going into the first stitch just here and do 2 single crochets in that same stitch. So that's 2 into the next, into the next, 4, that's 5 and 6, 8, 10, that's 12, 14, and then this last one for 16, 14, so that's 15, and then 16. So now you've got 16 stitches going all the way around. So now you're going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch, and you're going to do that for 7 rounds. So going into this first stitch here for 1 single crochet, into the next stitch 1 single crochet, so that's 2 and 3. So I just keep doing 1 single crochet all the way around for 7 rounds, and I'll meet you back at the end of the 7th round. And don't forget to use your stitch marker, and I'll be back at the end of the 7th round. Okay, so once you have finished with your 7 rounds, I've turned mine the other way around where my tail end is on the inside. So now we're just going to finish this round by making a slip stitch and then a chain 1, and then we're going to cut the yarn. And then just simply pull that through, and that will make a nice little knot. So now I'm going to use a different colour yarn. In my case I'm using this gold colour. You can use any colour you wish, as long as it's a different colour to the main colour of your bucket. And then we're just going to go through the back of each stitch. So pull your yarn through. Whichever direction you go, you can't go in and out different ways, so I'm going to go this way. Just pull that yarn. I've probably got far too much yarn here, so I'm just going to leave a bit of a tail in there. So I'm going to go onto the next stitch, but I'm not going to go through that way. I'm going to come back through this way, and then do this for every stitch going around, making sure not to get your yarn knotted the best that you can. So I'm going to move on to the next stitch and going through the back towards myself, and just keep doing this all the way around the whole of your bucket, at the top of the brim going into the next, and this creates a lovely little whip stitch effect. I've got a little knot just here, so I just need to sort that knot out. So there we go, that's that knot gone. So easy to knot on yarns. So I'm just going to keep working all the way around, and I'll meet you back when I've got to the end of here. Okay, so I've made it back around, and I've just finished my very last one at the one before I'd done the first one. So using your tapestry needle still, we're going to go back through again, and we're just going to go over, because this is the back, so we're just going to take that yarn over, and I'm just going to do a going in between the fibres through the back here, anywhere you can. You don't want to go all the way through the whole of the bucket, you just want to go through some of these fibres, and you can just like so, but you can actually just tie this tail in with through the fibres. So just going through the fibres, making sure your yarn is resting over on top of your tail, and just simply go through onto the other side, and that will just help to lock that tail down into place. Like so. So it kind of looks like that. So now I'm going to come down at least about 1, 2, maybe about 3 stitches. So I'm going to go at the back here for about here, and I'm just going to bring up my tapestry needle back through the centre of this bucket. So now we've done that, I'm now going to cut a bit of length, just bring that round to about there, and I'm going to cut some length, so about there, so you've got some length for one side, and then we're going to go back inside again and coming through the same stitch at the back, and to pull that through, and you want to leave a bit of a tail on the inside so you can tie that in at the end, and just make it about the same length as you have for the first one. Take your scissors and give that a little cut, and that other piece of yarn that's attached with your tapestry needle can just stay on the side for a moment. I'm just going to take each tail, wrap that round the front of your bucket, and then just make a little bow for at the front of your tree bucket. So just go underneath the loop, just like you would when you're tying a shoelace. You don't want it too tight, and you don't want it too loose. So it's a little bit fiddly, so just make a nice little small bow at the best that you can. And then I like to just mess around with it a little bit by pulling the ends in each side at a time, just to try and get that bow at the right size that I'm wanting it to be at. So I probably want that a bit smaller again, so I just pull each tail at a time, like so. So I'm probably quite happy with that, and then I'm just going to simply cut these tails. And I like to cut them on a little bit of an angle. So that is the main part of the bucket done. So now I like to just stuff very small amount of stuff in, just at the bottom of the actual bucket. I don't use a lot of stuff at all, just a little bit, and that just helps to give it a little bit of a height. And then you want to put a piece of cardboard on top of that to make it sturdy. You could even do a cardboard at the bottom, then stuffing, and then cardboard again, whichever you feel is best. And then that will then sit on your tree, will then sit on there. So you want it so you can see the top. So maybe I might need a bit more stuffing again, and then a bit of cardboard to sit your tree on there. So that is the bucket part done. So just make sure you use a bit of card at the bottom, so that's sturdy at the bottom, and so then your tree will then stand up nicely. So next is going to be the tree topper, so I'll be back to show you how to do the tree topper now. Okay, so for this next round we're going to do the topper for the tree. I'm going to be using a 3.25mm crochet hook. I've got gold yarn attached to a tapestry needle, and then I've got some more gold yarn just here. So for the tree topper I'm going to do a bow. So to do your bow we're going to do a chain of 7. So start by making your slip knot. Insert your hook and attach that slip knot to your hook, and now you're going to do a chain of 7. So once you have your chain of 7, you're now going to just work in single crochets, and each time you do a new row you're going to chain 1, and we're going to do that for a total of 5 rows. So going into the second chain from your hook, so 1 and 2, and do 1 single crochet in each stitch along, and you will have 6 single crochets at the end of each row. And then when you move on to your next row you're going to chain 1 and turn, and then going into that first chain space right here into that stitch, and keep working like this until you have 5 rows, including the first row that we've already done, and I'll meet you back at the end of row 5. Okay, so now I've got 5 rows of 6 single crochets going across. Now just going to do a chain 1, and you're just going to cut your yarn and fasten off, and then we can sew that end in later. So for this next part we're going to be using this gold yarn, or whatever colour yarn you're using. I've done it to match my bucket for my tree. So I'm just going to simply push this together and pinch the centre of the square that we've just made, and we're just going to wrap this gold yarn around. So make sure you leave a little bit of a tail. It can be a little bit fiddly, and then you're just simply going to hold it the best that you can in the centre, and like I say, just leave it a tail like this, and then just simply wrap that going around as many times as you feel it needs. For your bow. So when you are satisfied with how many times you've wrapped your other piece of yarn around your bow, you're just going to stop and make sure you finish towards the back, and then you're going to turn your bow upside down, and you're just going to simply tie it with a little knot to secure it in place. So just simply secure that into place. And what I like to do when I do a little secure knot, I like to just thread that through the loop. I like to do that twice, going into that loop, and that just helps to give it a better secure. And then you can cut the second end, and then you are ready then to do the next part of your bow. So to do the next part of your bow, I'm going to be using my tapestry needle, and I'm going to go through from the back just like we did with the bucket and pull your yarn through, and then keep going into each stitch, going from the back, going around your bow. So here I'm on the corner. I'm actually going to go around my tail end, and I'm just going to take that through to over here. And just try and go around the bow as evenly as you possibly can, going into each stitch with your tapestry needle. So I'll meet you back at the end once I've finished all going away all the way round. Okay, so once I have gone all the way around, I've sewn in the rest of my ends, and with my tapestry needle, when I got to the very last stitch at the bottom here, I just simply took my tapestry needle and went through the fibres at the back and then pulled that through, so now that's hanging from the centre of the bow. So that will be what I'll use to attach onto my tree with. So I'm just going to leave that there ready to attach to the top of my tree once I've finished doing the rest of the little bits and pieces for the tree. So for this next part, I'm just going to show you now. I'm going to be doing like a tinsel look going around, but I'm going to go on every other row. You can do this in any colour you wish, or you can even do it white so it looks like snow, which would look pretty as well. So for that I'm going to use a 4mm crochet hook, and I'm going to use this gold yarn. And because, as you'll see, all these branches are not quite connecting, we're going to connect these branches together by using the whatever colour yarn you're using to go around the whole of your tree. I'm going to do this for every other row. You can do every row if you wish, it's entirely up to you, or you could even do 2 different types of colours, so you could have your main colour and maybe snow look, or whatever you feel you want to do. This is your project as well. So just simply insert your hook somewhere in between those 2 stitches through the bar. Just going to wrap your yarn, put your yarn over your hook, pull that through, chain 1, go back in and do 1 single crochet. When you do your 1 single crochet, just make sure you catch that yarn underneath, and just go in each stitch at the best that you can. And here is where we have done a slip stitch right down here. I don't want to go all the way into there, so I'm just going to do another single crochet down at the side there. I'm going to take this piece here, and I'm actually going to join this together with a little slip stitch, and then go into this top stitch here and do a single crochet, and then do a single crochet all the way around. So I'm going to keep working all the way around, and I'll be back at the end to show you what you need to do next. Okay, so your Christmas tree should be now starting to look something a little bit like this now. I've just gone all the way around. I'm now going to do a few little baubles. This is optional, you don't have to do baubles. I'm just going to dot my baubles in between each of these rows. I'm not going to do every single branch. I've just gone on the larger branches here. Maybe the next one I might do the smaller branches and alternate it or something. So to do those, I've been doing that with French knots. Now you don't have to do French knots, so I'm going to show you another way in case you don't know how to do a French knot. So I'll show you both ways, so you get the choice of 2. So for the first way, if you're not happy with French knots, is I use a 2.75mm crochet hook, and then I'm just simply going to make a little magic ring, chain 1, just do 2 single crochets into the ring. This is very quick and easy to do, but because of how many you're going to do, it can get a little bit laborious with all the sewing. So anyway, 2 single crochets and do a chain. So once you are happy with that, you're just going to pull your ring, and we're just going to do a slip stitch into that first stitch. I know it's quite difficult to see because it's a very small ring. Just going to pull the yarn through and through again, do a little chain 1, cut your yarn, and then you're just going to use your tapestry needle, which I'll just take mine off here. Take one end of where the slip knot end, where you've just fastened that off. You're just going to go through the best that you can all the way to the base. Simply pull that through and pull, and that will make a little bit of a bubble, and then you can sew that on, attach that onto one of your branches, and that would be perfect for a little bubble. So the other way of doing your bubble, which would be to do a French knot, so to do a French knot, this could be quite frustrating on times because the way the stitches are, so always look for where feels secure at the best on the actual stitch. Because of the nature of the stitches that we've used, sometimes it will feel a bit loose and they will just fall out. So the way to get around that is to find probably the best part you can feel that feels most secure, and if it feels quite tight when you push your tapestry needle through, pull your yarn. Okay, so I've pulled probably far too much yarn here, but it's okay. So we're going to wrap the yarn around your tapestry needle 3 times or 4, depending on how thick you want your baubles. Now you're going to go into a stitch that is closest to where you've came through. So I'm going to go through here. This feels rather taut there, so I'm just going to pull my tapestry needle through. But I'm going to really take my time now, so I'm going to let go of my tapestry needle and I'm going to hold onto one of these pieces of yarn that's going to pull the yarn through. So as you can see, I'm pulling that real gentle. I don't want to pull fast, I'm just going nice and slow, taking it nice and easy, and then we've got this last one to pull through, and there is your French knot. And then you can just leave that there. You don't want to tug too much because, like I say, the nature of the stitch, your French knot will just fall through and you do not want that. And then you can just lift at the bottom here and you can do a little knot if you like, or just give it a little cut. So you've got minimal yarn at the bottom, or if you are sewing it on like I have here, you can see it's quite thick at the bottom, and I don't really like that look. I prefer the look to have it more like this. So it is on, but it's not secure brilliantly. So, you know, it depends on what you're using your tree for. If it's a little ornament for your Christmas tree, or if it's a little ornament for on your somewhere in the home, you know, that will stay fine as long as it's not being, you know, tugged around with too much. Same as the bucket, you can attach your bucket if you didn't want the stuffing in there. If it's too much stuffing or it keeps slipping off, you can just go around with a tapestry needle and sew it to the base of the trunk, and you can even put more stuffing in to hide it a little bit more. So that again is optional choice. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off, put my baubles on, and then I'll be back. Okay, so my Christmas tree is now done. I've just gone round, finished off my baubles going around. So that is now done. I also decided to sew the bucket to the bottom of the trunk of the tree. I think it's made it nice and sturdier, and when I attached my bow on, I just simply used that one piece of strand and I actually just went through the fibres of the actual yarn, and that seems nice and sturdy as well. So this is now done. I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. I am on Facebook, Crochet Infusion. On my Facebook you can share any of your projects that you do from my tutorials. I'd love to see your work. If you are liking my tutorials, please subscribe so you'll be notified when I do new tutorials. So until next time, thank you all so much. Have a lovely Christmas and stay safe, and thank you all so much for a wonderful year. Thank you all. Bye.